Well, like I said
as I
earlier, I
said.
think that
What do you
we
think?
lose one of the two games, Tennessee and Georgia. Obviously, Georgia is the better team, and I would think that the loss to Georgia would hurt a lot more. But the thing you have to look for is that also playing Auburn, and Auburn's a really good team. So you got to think that Georgia probably loses another game outside of our division.
They also play
Right. I
LSU the
also
week
heard that
before
the Gators were
that
the
we
only
play
team
them.
that in the SEC this year that don't have a team that plays them coming off of a bye week, which is pretty good for us. There's not going to be that extra week of preparation to get ready for our team, which is really, really great. My rankings, I really think the Gators pull it out this year. I think they do lose one conference game, but I'm hoping the game is to Tennessee instead of Georgia. So I think it goes Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina. Then I think that Vanderbilt and Kentucky are both going to be terrible this year. But Kentucky just lost way too much, especially with their quarterback going down. Andre Woodson was that entire team last year. So I think that Vanderbilt is going to be fifth and Kentucky last. As for the West, man, you got two pretty really good teams at the top with LSU and Auburn. You got the defending national champion in LSU. I think that Auburn's team is good this year to be beaten by LSU. So I'm going to go with Auburn first and LSU second, followed by Alabama. James had made the point that they have some good freshmen coming in, and I think that Alabama's going to bounce back. Nick Saban,
They're going to take
Alabama,
Clemson week one.
Nick Saban
Watch.
knows what he's doing. Even though I hate him because he used to be the Dolphins coach, but that's for another day. Fourth, I'm looking at Mississippi State. They had a charge last season at the end of the season, and they played very, very well. I mean, Sylvester Croom, he might be get back because they were okay in the 90s. They beat us a couple times, that's for sure. They really took a dive the last couple of years until last year, and I think they're going to be back. They'll probably go. They might go 500. That would be a goal for them. 500 in the conference would be really, really good for them. And then you got to look at Arkansas and then Mississippi last. They're really not going to be all that good. They've got coaching changes and a lot of departures on both of their teams.
Well, my West, I pretty much agree with you. I stated that I think Auburn's going to be very good, and they're going to win the West. LSU is a close second because they have so much talent. Even though they lost some guys, they've just been loaded for years now. And Alabama, I mentioned, is a team that's going to come up, but third place in your division in the SEC, really that makes you a top 15 team nationally. So to say they're going to come in third is no disrespect to them, I think. After that, I'm not real sure. Ole Miss, I think a lot of people
Georgia.
nationally are saying they could surprise some people because Ed Orgeron at least
Oh, no,
brought
no,
in
no,
some
no,
good
no, no.
recruits, especially along the defensive line, and also made one hilarious YouTube video. Mississippi State, I really like Kroom as the coach. I think that he's a very good coach, but they just don't have, they just
Yeah,
aren't there yet
I
to
can't see
compete with the
Starkville being
top
a
three in
very
their division. And then
enticing
Arkansas
place
really
for
lost a lot.
recruits. I've gone there twice, and that place sucks.
Well, as my dad always, if Palaca had a SEC school with
All
the
right,
cowbells and
now we're
such.
gonna move to our national predictions. James, why don't you give me a couple teams that
We'll
you're
just
looking
do
for,
a quick,
and who you think's gonna be in the mix nationally, and a
mix.
sleeper.
Well, obviously you got to put USC and Ohio State. They square off the third week of September, which will be a fantastic game to watch. Ohio State, as much as we like to rip on them in the SEC, they have a lot back, and this might actually
They,
the best team of the last 3 years. But it's just too much for them to go into LA and beat USC. USC's stacked. At the same time, neither one of those teams has somebody to really challenge them seriously for a conference title.
absolutely.
So they'll both be in the mix at the end of the year, regardless of the outcome of that game. As far as a sleeper nationally, I know I just said that no one will challenge USC in the Pac-10 for the crown. However, Oregon, I think, is really flying under the radar. I really like Chip Kelly. They also have a junior college transfer in LeGarrette Blount, who's going to take over for Jonathan Stewart, and he's been fantastic for them in the spring and camp this summer. And I think that they They could challenge USC in a game. They'll probably come in second in the conference, but with their history, you really can't pick them to win the Pac-10 or anything. As far as the Big Ten, Michigan isn't going to challenge Ohio State. They're nowhere close. They've lost way too much. However, they do have Sam McGuffey, who has made some of my favorite YouTubes ever, and I wish he would have come to Florida. And as far as the Big 12 is probably the second best conference this year. They have so many returning quarterbacks. Missouri is in the top 5 nationally, as is Oklahoma. I don't know how much I really believe in Missouri. Kansas, I don't believe in at all. They're going to lose like 4 games. They just have a tougher schedule this year. And from the Big East, I don't see anyone being a national player. USF's going way down this year, and that covers it for the BCS.
Obviously, Southern Cal and Ohio State, they're not going to have much of a challenge this year, which it sucks. If they were in the SEC, they'd have a challenge every week. Now, the Pac-10 has had some okay schools over the past couple of years that have given them some challenges, but you're going to see a drop-off, a drastic drop-off over the next couple of years with these teams. I think that the only team, besides Oregon, Mike Bellotti, as long as he's there, you're going to see good things out of Oregon. But UCLA over the next couple of years, probably with Rick Neuheisel, you're going to see UCLA start to challenge and take some of those recruits from Southern Cal, but not this year. They've got a ways to go. As for the Big Ten, some of that wasn't mentioned earlier by James was Illinois. Ron Zook knows how to recruit. He recruited that entire team for us a couple of years ago that won the national championship, besides Tebow and Harbin. But you got to look at them to challenge at least Ohio State. Ohio State has to play at Illinois this season, at Wisconsin. So you're going to get some tough challenges. The Big 12, nobody has been talking about Texas, and Texas is completely flying under the radar, which is kind of weird because Texas is one of those powerhouse schools that can get recruits every single year. I think Texas gives Oklahoma and Missouri, if they play them in the championship game, I think that they give them a lot of trouble. I think over the next couple of years, you're also going to see Nebraska with Bo Pelini there start to make their rise back up. He knows what he was doing. He was very, very good at LSU, and you could only assume that he's going to get them back on the right track, but not this year. As for all the other schools, look at the SEC. The SEC is the cream of the crop, especially this year. Florida, Georgia, LSU, and Auburn all have a shot at the national title. So I think that whoever comes out of that, if one of those teams could go through the entire conference with only one loss, you got to think that that team goes to the national championship game. Oklahoma's going to be really good out of the Big 12, but I think that they're going to have a lot of trouble with Missouri. Missouri's really good, but you got to think that Missouri also loses a game. Missouri, the very first week of the season, plays Illinois, and that's a really, really good game to start off the season. I would expect the winner of that game to be in good position. They're not going to have much of a team for the rest of the season.
Well, I think Clemson is getting a lot of attention nationally because somebody has to win the ACC, and if a conference champion has a very good record, they'll always get thrown into the national debate. But like I said earlier, I actually expect Clemson to lose to Alabama. Miami, I think, will be a good team at the end, and if things go right for them, I could see them making the ACC championship game. But one team that nobody is really talking about because they focus on Clemson so much is Virginia Tech, and they're always good. Regardless of who's there, it seems like they're always capable of making a run.
I agree, and also Virginia.
So watch
you have
out
to
for
look
them.
at Virginia. The very first game of the season, they play USC. I'd like to watch that game and see if they give them a showing. It's at Virginia, and I think that if they play a good game, that could be a sign of things to come for them. But yeah, I really do expect Virginia Tech to walk away with this. Boston College is going to drop drastically without Matt Ryan, and I think Miami's got a year to go. All right, James, do you have anything else?
Well, you mentioned Illinois. I just want to mention one of my predictions is that Juice Williams still has the biggest head in Division I.
All right, so for James, I'd like to thank him for coming this week, and that's a preview. You should look forward to a preview of this week's game against Hawaii later this week. And for James, I'm Chris, and I'm signing off. Take care.